Hello everyone, my name is Wendy Lehman. I'm a fashion stylist and personal shopper, and if this is your first visit to my channel, thank you, welcome. Please press the subscribe button, look for me on social media, etc. If you've already become a regular, that's great. I'm pleased to have you back. As many of you will know, this is another in a series of my videos, Fashion in the Time of Corona. I'm working my way through my wardrobe, and we're now currently on outerwear, and today I'm going to look at coats. I have a Uniqlo, what I call a bubble coat, one of those little puffer coats with a hood. It scrunches down into nothing, fits into a tiny little pouch that can sit in the bottom of my handbag. I take it with me whenever I travel. I wear it under a lot of the coats that I'm going to show you today. I try not to buy very heavy coats. I simply find them quite unwieldy. I find them too hot when you're going in and out of shops, and actually quite a weight to carry. So I prefer to layer up coats, and I do quite a lot of that. If that idea appeals, also think about layering a gilet under a coat, or even a gilet over a coat, which can work. And maybe when I work through gilets and jackets, I'll try to show you one of those looks. But for now, we're going to look at my coats, and I'm going to start with my winter coat. I've had this winter coat. I bought this in Kouquet about, I don't know how many years ago, a lot of years ago, and I've worn it a lot, and it is starting to look tired. One of the reasons for doing this edit now is to identify for myself the gaps and overlaps in my own wardrobe, and to encourage you to do the same. And one of the things that you need to think about is whether or not a garment is looking tired and no longer doing you justice. So I rather fear that this coat is starting to look tired. I love it because it has all the elements that work for me. It's single-breasted. I can't do double-breasted coats, and I can't do any coats that have got any sort of waist. So I can't do a wrap-over coat. I don't have a waist. I don't have a natural waist. I can't do anything that wants you to emphasize your waist. And there are stylists who will say, create a waist where there isn't one. But I don't agree with that. I think you should be working with your body geometry, and trying to create a waist for me just makes me look like a sack of potatoes. So I can't do that classic Mac look. I can't do the classic wrap over coat, although I love it on other people. So for me, this coat was perfect. Nothing oversized about it, which is good for me. And a rigid stand-up collar is perfect. So this was a sort of like an overgrown mandarin collar, which is a lovely look for me. Single-breasted, as I say, double-breasted doesn't work. All the lines on this are very straight, which suits me perfectly. But it is starting to look quite pilled, where my bags have rubbed against it, particularly if I've worn crossbody bags over this. So you need to be aware of that. I am going to. There are services in dry cleaners and places like that where they will take off the pilling and kind of refresh your coats. And I think if you've got a coat that you love or that you spent a lot of money on, it's definitely worth doing that, because it will rejuvenate it for about another season, maybe even a bit longer. But be aware that you can't keep doing that, because eventually the pile of the fabric, it just gets completely worn away. So you might be able to rejuvenate your coat for 1 or 2 more seasons if, like me, you're feeling it's a bit pilled. But you need to put it on your list of gaps in your wardrobe and know that at some point in the future you're going to need to replace that. This is an outer coat. There's no way you can sit in a meeting wearing this coat. So I'm going to come on to some coats which you can keep on without looking as though you're trying to make a hasty exit, but this is not one of them. So definitely this is an outerwear coat, and it needs to come off when you arrive wherever you're going. The second coat that falls into that bracket is this one. I've enjoyed wearing this. I've had this quite a long time as well. It's if you can see, it's got like a checked lining, so I like to turn up the sleeves, and I'll often wear my bubble coat underneath this one as well, and then I'll turn the sleeve up a bit more, and you'll have a bit of the brown bubble coat coming through, and maybe the hood coming out of the back, but it's just a bit of a funkier look than walking around in the bubble coat all the time. So I've worn this quite a lot. I've got a couple of pairs of check trousers, and I enjoy the fun of wearing the kind of contrasting checks with the outside of this and the plaid trousers that I might have. Again, this is not a coat that you can keep on through a meeting. You need to take it off when you arrive because it just looks too outerweary. And this I bought this season, just gone. This is from Zara, very inexpensive coat, not lined, so not particularly warm, but perfect for spring. Gorgeously smart over a white shirt or with black trousers. Really, really nice, smart coat, but again, not something that you can keep on if you're indoors. It looks like an outdoor coat. One of the things that that you have to look out for when a coat is very inexpensive, and this one falls into that bracket, is that they'll sometimes skimp on the interfacing on the lapel. Now this lapel, the size of this lapel is really good for me because again, it's a very, it's a small notched collar. There's nothing oversized about that, which is good for my proportions. And if you've watched previous videos, you'll know I talk a lot about proportion and balance and how it's really important to keep that in mind when you're buying clothes. But the problem is, because they don't put a lot of interfacing into this, and that helps them keep the price down, you'll sometimes get this sort of flopping open of one side or other. Not usually both, oddly, but one side or the other. And whereas most people wouldn't notice that, it really gets on my nerves. So I like this coat very much. It sits perfectly. It's a really good fit. It's a perfect length. But I'm going to take it into an alterations place and see what they can do about that by putting in just a few stitches on the inside, because otherwise every time I wear it, it's going to get on my nerves. And for the sake of a few pounds or shekels or dollars or wherever you happen to be watching this, it's worth investing that just to get that slightly neater look. So that, once that's like that, I'm going to be much happier. So that's on my list of things to do. Again, always build in time when you're buying something. Always build in time to either take it back if you're not sure about it. So buy it, take it home, try it on with things at home, look at yourself in mirrors that you're familiar with, try it on with other things, but be prepared to take it back if it's not right. And always think about, if there's just something that needs doing, think about having it altered slightly, or something like this, which is just a small, really just a small alteration that will make it much more wearable for you. Okay. Now the other three coats I'm going to share with you are coats that I would keep on indoors. So the first one of those is actually looks quite heavy, I think, from when you first look at it, but it's actually an unlined coat, and it's knitted, as in it's got if you don't know the difference between knitted and woven, something that's knitted will have a certain amount of give in it, even if it hasn't got any elastane or any elastic type lycra or anything like that, any elastic thread in it. So this is actually a knitted coat, which means that you can scrunch the sleeves right up. It's very lightweight. It sits almost like a cardigan, but is much more structured than a cardigan, much smarter than a cardigan. It's got a lovely bit of detail here, but nothing, and a little bit of detail on the sleeves, but absolutely nothing overstated. It's very clean lines, just straight. Again, single-breasted, 3 poppers down the front. Nothing oversized about it at all. Again, just a little bit of detail on the collar, if you can see that. Probably can't with the light at the moment. And that's it. So I would definitely keep this on through a meeting. I wouldn't feel as though I looked as though I was about to leave in a hurry. And layering, any sort of additional layer that you can give yourself really kind of adds to the power of your look. So if you've got a coat like this that you can keep on in a meeting, and what's underneath is perhaps not particularly powerful in terms of, so let's just say you're wearing a t-shirt and a pair of jeans, putting on something like this over the top of it and then keeping that on will give you some real power in the meeting. The next 2 coats I've got are really fun, funky coloured coats, but both of these colours are good colours for me, so it won't matter if they're not in fashion. They'll work for me and they'll work for the colours in my wardrobe. This one is from COS. I've had it a couple of years. It's a really lovely green, big oversized pockets which are a little bit floppy. I'd be happier if the pocket was really, really tight, but I can live with this. Again, just a very neat fitted coat, round neck, nothing oversized about it, single-breasted. Sleeves are 3/4 length sleeves. 3/4 length sleeves are really good on people who are short. You really look, you add height to your look if you show you a bit of skin between the top of your boot or shoe and the bottom of your trouser, and you add length to yourself if you show a bit of arm between the sleeve and the wrist. So a 3/4 length sleeve is a really good length sleeve for anybody who's small, and so that's I like it from that point of view. But it's also a lightweight, unlined coat, so completely fine to keep on when you're indoors. And again, just that little bit smarter and edgier than a cardigan would be with the same weight. And the other coat like that I've got is this one, also from Zara, also unlined, full length sleeves, so I tend to curl those up. I tend to turn those up so there's a bit of arm showing. And again, this is a really fun, bright colour. There was a lot of yellow in the shops last summer and actually the summer before. I love it. I've got a couple of yellow bags. I've got this. I've got a couple of yellow tops. It's a very good colour for me. This particular yellow is a really good yellow for me. So I'm not worried that I've invested in a coat in this colour and it's not going to be high fashion next year, because it's always going to be a good colour for me and I'm always going to be able to wear it. It's very bright. I'm very conscious that that there's no missing me when I'm in this. So I'm careful about where and when I wear it, because it's powerful to walk in a colour like this, and you want to be able to control that. So sometimes you don't want to be the person that everybody's spotted from a distance, and sometimes you do, and so it's lovely to have this. And it certainly, really cheers, if you're feeling a bit tired or whatever, it's great to put on something like this because it really, really lights you up. Okay, so those are my coats. I've got a bunch of jackets as well, so I think the next videos will be jackets and gilets or some combination of those. So I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.